Welcome back to the final bracket of the debates, ladies and gentlemen. We have the vegans on the left, and then we have the farmers on the right.
All right, so we're going to start off with the first question, and you've got 2 minutes. You know what? Let's just free roll it. All right? Who wants to free roll it? Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go. All right, your statement, Tash, saying if you're not a vegan, you're an animal abuser. Please elaborate.
Yes, so all animal industries, including the meat, dairy and egg industries, leather, wool, fur, feather, scales, they're all inherently abusive and they all murder animals to make profit from them or once they're considered no longer profitable to the industries. Animals are blatantly abused in these industries. I could run plenty of examples. I'll start with the meat industry. An example is pigs. They are 6 months old when they're forced into carbon dioxide gas chambers and they literally burn from the inside out. We've been outside these slaughterhouses hearing these pigs scream. We've been inside piggeries and seen babies dying on the floor having seizures. We've seen mothers in these crates with tears in their eyes because they spend their entire life in a crate, forced to repeatedly give birth to these babies. This is the meat industry. Let's move on to the dairy industry where mothers are raped and once they give birth after a 9-month pregnancy, her baby is often immediately taken away from her. Why? So you can drink her breast milk. If her baby is born male, he's murdered. He's shot in the head on the spot by the farmer or he's sent to a slaughterhouse to be processed as veal. We're talking about babies just days to weeks old. This is the dairy industry. In the egg industry, chickens are forced to lay hundreds more eggs than they're naturally bred to. And the male chicks are macerated on their first day of life because they're born male. So that's the same in the dairy industry. The males are murdered as babies because they're not considered profitable. These industries subject animals to enslavement, rape, torture, abuse and murder. And they should have the right to live just like we do. And we need to stop oppressing species. If you don't believe me, you can go onto YouTube and watch Dominion. It's an Australian documentary. We've both met people who took the footage in these industries. They suffer from severe PTSD from what they've witnessed. They risk their lives to get this footage. It's not propaganda. See it for yourself. We've both been inside these places and we've seen what is happening to non-human animals, and it is an absolute atrocity. It is more than abuse. It's the largest Holocaust in history, with 3 trillion individuals brutally murdered every year just for
You've never visited
consumption.
my place.
How do you know?
Because if you had, you'd know that you're talking a load of shit.
And what animals do you farm? What is your industry, may I
I run
ask?
a goat dairy.
First and foremost,
I run a goat dairy. Now, for a start, we don't rape our animals.
Yes, you use euphemisms such as artificial insemination, which
I
is
don't
rape.
use artificial insemination. I run my bucks with my herd. My bucks get the girls when the girls are in season, and only then. And it's their choice, nature's choice. We allow our kids to stay on their mother. We only take the excess milk. So you're talking a load of shit.
But you're making profit from animals, right? They're commodities to you.
No,
you
I
have
sell
ownership
their
over
milk
them.
so that they can get food. They get fed. They get fed better than I do.
Our argument here is that
No,
animals
your
should be bred
argument,
into existence in the first place to be
your argument has
commodified.
nothing to do with exactly what I do. So until
You are abusing your animals.
No,
That's
I'm
what
not.
you do. Yes.
Let me ask
You're
you
making
something.
profit
If
from
I'm
them.
abusing my animals, why is it that I can walk out in the paddock, I can call them by name, and every single one of my animals come up and want to rub their faces on me? If I'm abusing them, why are they so friendly to me?
Can you tell me what happens once they're considered no longer profitable to you?
They are not.
do with
They're
them?
never considered no longer profitable to me.
Once they can no longer produce breast milk, they reach a certain age
Well,
where they
you
can't
see,
be
that's
pregnant.
the other thing where you say that we rape them. The thing is, my goats, I've got one there that's been milking for 5 years. and she produces 3.5
You
litres
didn't
of
answer
milk
the
a day.
question. You didn't answer our question.
What question was that?
Once they're considered no longer profitable, when they can no longer
I eat the
produce
damn
breast
things
milk,
because I'm a canine.
what happens with them?
I eat them because I'm a canine.
And is that abuse or not?
No, it's not. I eat the damn things.
How do they die?
How do they die? I kill them.
You kill them. Is
Myself.
that not abuse?
No.
If you were to be killed, would that be a form of abuse?
No.
No. Okay.
I've done that. I've actually killed human beings. I was a soldier. I'm an ex-soldier.
This is your farmer.
I'm an ex-soldier. I'm not everyday farmer. I'm just happen to be an ex-soldier. So I have killed people. But I have killed people at the instigation of the government. Not my choice.
Yeah, but you murder animals and you
No,
abuse
I
them
don't murder
and you make
animals.
profit from them.
I don't murder animals, dear.
Yes, you do.
Can I
No.
just
Can you tell me how?
Sorry, can
Sorry.
I just interject very quickly? I think where we're getting lost here in the conversation is you guys want to know at what time do the animals get killed? When they're
Okay.
Do the animals get killed when they're sick? Do they die of old age?
Well, by the
or
time
are they killed prematurely?
Okay, by the time the animals are no longer viable as milkers, they're 16 or 17 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you want to put that into an equivalent human being age, they're 75.
Okay.
And what do we do with human beings when they're 75? Do we kill them?
Well, a lot of people would like to. I'm 70.
But what we're saying here, regardless of whether they're murdered or not, which they blatantly are murdered, the act of actually breeding animals into existence and using them as slaves and commodities to consume their breast milk is absolutely unnecessary. We do not need to be enslaving others of different species to be consuming their breast milk. Replace it with humans and you'll see how immoral it is. What if we got a group of female women and enslaved them and started stealing their breast milk from them? And there's no doubt that their babies are taken away from them. I think you're blatantly lying there. Their babies are taken away
sorry,
from them
but you've
so he
never
can
been
make
to my
profit
place,
from her
dear.
breast milk.
You need to
He
come and
wants
have a
her
look.
breast milk in your mouth. He doesn't want it in the babies. The babies are murdered.
No, they're not. They're still. My babies are running around in the paddock.
What
with their
happens
mums.
to the males?
The males? Well, those that I can't sell as breeding stock, I keep until they're around about 2 years old. And then I eat them. I'm a carnivore. I'll admit it. I like to eat meat.
Actually, you have the choice. You're not a carnivore because
I
we're
do
all
have a
omnivores
choice,
and we can
and my
thrive and
choice-
survive on a plant-based
My
diet.
choice is I like to eat meat.
Wait 1 second. You just said you're not a carnivore. What do you mean by that?
Well, humans are omnivores, so that means we can thrive and survive on a plant-based diet. So
Yeah,
he's
but
not a
hang
carnivore
on, we
because
are
otherwise you'd
omnivores.
only be able to thrive and survive on flesh.
Excuse me, dear. You said omnivore, which means that we eat both meat and plant-based products. We have a choice.
Yeah. All right.
And
So
just because you have made your choice, don't put your choice on me. I want to be able to choose for myself.
all right. So just to quickly touch on the can humans thrive on a plant-based diet solely, no animals. It is completely doable. Leading Yeah, so leading dietetic associations, people that study the human diet around the world, are all at the consensus that we can thrive on a plant-based diet.
In Dubai, you're not allowed to drink. In Saudi Arabia, you're not allowed to drink. In Australia, you are. Like it comes down to choice. So just because you've chosen not to eat meat does not mean the next person has to. Though. And where the issue is, and I'm not like taking any sides here, as a meat eater myself, just because you've chosen not to eat meat, no one would bat an eye if you don't eat meat.
Sure.
The problem is when you try to push your ideologies on other people to eat meat.
I'm glad you brought this up.
Not to eat meat.
I am glad you brought this up because that's an important thing to consider. The fact that we have a choice, you're taking the choice away from animals. They have a right to live, and by eating meat,
Do you drink?
drink what?
Do you drink liquor? Do you smoke weed?
No, I do not.
You do not.
No, I do not. No. Okay, I'll just continue with that. I'll just finish that at least. So we're saying we have the choice. We do have the choice. You can choose to consume animals if you want to. You can murder and abuse them via farmers and paying your money to farmers to do it. but you do have a choice, and that's because the animals do not have a choice. They are forced into carbon dioxide gas chambers, as Tash said, in the pig industry, or at least they're going to have a shot to the head. If any of you were in those animals' position, I'm sure you wouldn't want that to happen to you. If your oppressor has a choice, you would want them to choose the choice of non-violence and peace.
What about plants? Do they have a choice?
Do plants have a choice? Are you saying they're sentient and they have a nervous system?
They've proven that they do. It's been proven they do. They have proven that plants have
So
senses.
you're telling me, everyone in the crowd, that slicing a carrot is the same as slitting a pig's throat?
If it's not,
Do you realise how ridiculous that is? They
It's
do not have a
debatable.
central nervous system.
Hey guys, we're gonna let them in the front talk about it. All right?
It has
Yeah,
been.
we've got a
Just wait.
question here.
He's got a point. Sasha, what would you like to say about this?
Like your eating choices, but as an animal, because we're all animals, like lions, whatever. You are. Anyway, like lions eat, like doesn't matter what age, they'll eat any animal. Like, how does that different for humans?
But no. The thing is, right? You know what a lion also does? A male lion will go and eat a female lion's cubs, so that the lion can mate with the female. So you can't really use that argument there. You know what I mean? But it's a fucked up word. You know what I mean? Because it's like the lion's just eating the cubs, and now the female's gonna fuck him. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine that?
Lion, I'm just using like a specific animal. Like, it could be any animal eats like.
The question is, should we base our morality on what other species are engaging in? That's a perfect example. Other species are engaging in rape and murdering their own young. So does that excuse humans to do the same?
All right. Let's bring it back to the farmers. Let's bring it back to them. Let them have their viewpoint. We'll have we might have a section for you guys.
Well, we produce food and try and produce the best quality food we can, what the public want to eat. If they want to eat meat, we'll try and produce the best lamb chops, best steak, fisheries, whatever the public want to eat. That's what we try and do. Best vegetables, best cereals. And we're a revolving industry. We're always regulated, extremely regulated now. We get more and more regulations. Live export's a classic one. If we didn't export into these other countries, we saw the disturbing footage in Indonesia a few years ago. Well, whether it was or not, if that's their culture, well, it's up to us. If we weren't in there trying to educate them, you wouldn't stop it. They'd get their sheep from somewhere else. So while we're still involved, and if we can stay involved, we can try and educate these other countries and make more humane. But I like eating my steak, I like eating my chops, and I'll produce the best quality I can for it. So I'm a predator. My eyes are in front. If I wasn't, my eyes would be out the side of my head. So.
But I'll have to give you one point. I disagree with factory farming. Okay? I believe in free-range farming, which is what we do. The animals have a free life out in the paddocks. They are not in a factory. They're not locked into a small area. They're not locked into yards. They're not locked into little boxes like you. I disagree totally with the description of farming that you've described. Unfortunately, we imported that from the Seppos. And if you don't want to know what that is, there's a bloke in the room that I could say that it is. It's from America. All right? We imported that type of farming from America. And I don't agree with it. And I'd like to see it banned, personally. Because I believe that animals should be allowed to have a free life while they're alive. But I agree with him. I'll produce meat because I like to eat it, and I like to produce it the best way I can. And I run my animals as ethically as I can in the modern world. So, like I said, if you want to see how animals can be run ethically, you're welcome to come and visit me.
Where's your location?
I'm out in the Swan Valley.
Okay.
So I'm not that far from Perth.
So quick plug.
And I have seen people write absolute bullshit on my website about how I treat my animals. They've never visited me, so they have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be visiting you. You said you kill humans, so we'll leave that one.
I have killed humans. I didn't say I do it now. I said I've done it in the past. All right? I didn't have a choice. I was sent to fight in a war that I had no choice with. Once again, it was a war we inherited from the Americans. I didn't. I was conscripted. I didn't have a choice.
So can I just respond back to the free range thing? Firstly, whether or not the animal is free range or not, they're still sent to the same murder factory where they're shot in the head or forced into a carbon dioxide gas chamber. That is standard legal industry practice, whether they're coming from the meat industry, dairy, egg, wool industry, etc. All animal industries are inherently abusive and murder animals for profit or once they're considered no longer profitable to the industry. In saying that, there's actually no legal framework as to what the term free range means in Australia, and I've been inside free range farms where animals are living in their own feces in big dark sheds, and it's horrific. It is not the free range that you would expect. They're not living out in pastures. Yes, I know that there is a small minority where they are. However, they're still enslaved and commodified, and they're used for their flesh and secretions or their wool, etc. It's still abuse and murder, and it's unnecessary, and we do not need to be contributing to this anymore. There is an abundance of vegan options in our supermarkets, and it's so easy to choose the non-animal abuse over the animal abuse product. And it's time to consider others of different species because they have a right to live just like us.
Where are we going to produce the food to feed the people? You said the supermarkets. Food doesn't grow in a supermarket. It grows on a farm.
It's all about supply and demand. So if
what
there's
we-
an increase in the demand for plant-based foods, then that product will be produced, right? It's all about supply and demand, as you just said.
It is all about supply and demand. But as urban spreads, all your fruit, all your veggie growing areas are declining. So where do they go? They can't go out in the desert. You can run cattle and goats out in the desert. They
Yeah,
can survive.
so, I mean, there's studies that have been done that if you were to stop all animal farming in the world tomorrow, we would clear up as much land as Africa, the actual continent of Africa. We only need a fraction of that to produce plant-based foods to feed humans. We would actually clear up land. We would be saving land by choosing a plant-based diet. There'd be less farming required as compared to the amount of land required for animal-based foods.
And more chemicals to use to control
No,
weeds.
yeah, I mean, you can grow organic. It's pretty simple.
Is it? Is it? What was the country that went organic and stopped them using phosphates and now they're starving? Sri Lanka?
Just let him go at the moment. Questions, we'll save them for later. But
Can I ask a question real quick? And this, like, both of you can answer this as well. What are the repercussions in perhaps not killing animals and eating them? Like, will we have an influx of animals? Will they overbreed? Like, what would happen over time? Huh?
The average goat has 2 cycles a year. All right. The average goat, any goat, has 2 cycles a year. Now, if they're allowed to mate freely in those 2 cycles, they will produce up to 4 kids a year. Now, each kid has a 50% chance of being male or female. If it's a male, 9 times out of 10, the senior buck in the herd will belt the crap out of them and kill them. And then he'll mate with the females, which will then produce another 4 kids a year. So pretty soon we're going to be overrun with animals.
So like
But if they're farmed, then we control their breeding. So, yeah, I guess there's pros and cons for that. Talked about food production. How many people here understand what happens when you grow GMO food for pesticide resistance? Do you know what the difference is between food that's grown GMO'd for pesticide resistance and food that's grown normally? You can't use the seeds. But also, they can use 10 times as much pesticide on it because it's pesticide resistant. So you're eating 10 times as much pesticide if you eat GMOs.
I think we need to come down to your farm and spend a night there. Sounds like a lovely place.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Would you like to rebuttal, Tash?
Yeah, so every year, 70 billion land animals are forcibly bred into existence for human food consumption. This is only happening, again, because of supply and demand. They wouldn't be bred into existence in the first place if there were no demand to consume their flesh, their secretions, wear their skin, wool, etc. They just would not exist, and that's exactly what we're saying here today. We have the power as an individual to create change and not pay people to rape and forcibly breed these animals into existence to be subjected to enslavement, torture, abuse and murder. And by purchasing the plant-based product, we're increasing the demand for that, and less animals are bred into existence into a life of enslavement, abuse and murder. So they wouldn't exist.
What about in the case of like the wild boar situation that we have here? We have an influx of wild boar.
Exactly.
And it's like open season where you can actually kill the wild boar because they are overtaking. Like, is that inhumane or like how? Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, could you answer the question of if we did stop all farming tomorrow and we all lived off a plant-based diet, how would, like the farmers have told us, how would the influx of animals be, that would obviously be a problem. How are we going to control that if we're just eating plant-based diet? Not saying that I disagree. I think if you want to choose to have a plant-based diet, that is completely up to you. If you want to eat meat, at the end of the day, we know the consequences of both. We know the consequences of GMOs on individuals eating 10 times as much pesticide. We know the global warming of the CO2, carbon monoxide from cows, and all that.
Can I comment back on that?
Yes, of course.
The amount of sheep and cattle in New Zealand produce as much CO2s as one air flight from Auckland to Christchurch returning.
That's something I didn't know. Not saying I disagree with either side. I'm very much fence sitter. I think it's just nice to hear your rebuttal on. If we did go plant-based, how would we control the farming? How would we control the amount of animals that breed naturally without any human interventions?
Okay, so what you've mentioned here is a very hypothetical scenario. The reality is that the world isn't just going to go vegan or at least plant-based overnight. It's a gradual process of supply and demand. So that's the reality. It's a gradual process. And that means the increased demand for plant-based foods will increase the demand for vegan options. And the decreased demand for animal products would mean that less animals are being bred into existence. It's not like the world's suddenly going to go vegan and there's billions of animals just existing. They wouldn't, that less would be bred into existence.
But like we are not out there like open game with kangaroos and wild boars, but yet we have an influx of that to a point where where you can actually go hunt them to actually decrease the population of them. So what happens with the rest of the other populations that we're not monitoring? Because we can't put them all on birth controls, no? Like, so
that already occurs with the kangaroos.
That's not necessarily true because there's been...
You have to cull them, right? And they were doing it with sharks as well. So like
in camels.
Camels, like so.
In New South Wales, there's actually been a parliamentary inquiry to show local extinctions of kangaroos. So that's just actually not the reality here.
You haven't been out in the bush very
Introduced species, those problems have happened because of humans.
Local extinction.
Humans are the most invasive and destructive species on this planet. Why are we putting our own problems upon others of different species? We should let animals live in their natural environments freely. To use this excuse to continue abusing and murdering animals is just not excusable.
Can I ask a question here, an ethical one? Australia is the capital of introduced species. We've got more feral goats, camels and brumbies than any other country in the world. Are we allowed to cull feral animals to feed people? Is that something that's ethically, acceptable within your vegan framework, or is culling, say, camels that are running rampant in outback Australia, do they have to live in their natural environment given that they're an invasive species?
Right question.
Well, yeah, it's going back again on the fact that humans are the most destructive and invasive species, so does that mean we should start a human cull? Absolutely not. So why should we put that upon others of different species and justify murder for the own issues that humans themselves have created? So absolutely not. I don't agree with murder. Full stop.
Where do you stand? So all like drum skins are from an animal, right? Do you like Bob Marley?
Not really. I don't listen to much.
Percussion instruments generally, like, are we allowed to use animal skins on drums, or is that out the window as well? Like, are we taking?
So, veganism is not only about our food choices, it's an ethical view against animal abuse and murder, and that means not using animals in any form, not abusing them and murdering them when it's unnecessary. There are vegan alternatives. I'm sure there's plenty of synthetic materials instead of shooting someone in the head and turning their bodies into a musical instrument or a piece of clothing.
Does that go for like insect repellent?
What if the animal's already dead, like, and then you eat it?
Yeah, it's not causing abuse and murder, so I don't know why anyone would want to consume someone's dead body that's just been sitting there. But yeah, it's not involved abuse or murder.
Are you still an animal abuser then? If it's dead?
You're wearing a belt. Is that belt from leather or is that an artificial?
Yeah, it's vegan leather, yeah.
Okay, but it's leather.
Yeah, it's not someone's skin.
So it's actually an artificial product.
Yeah, it's vegan, yes.
No, it's an artificial product.
Yes.
That's the question I'm asking.
Yeah, no one was shot in the head for my belt.
Yeah, but it is leather?
Yes,
vegan leather. So it came from an animal?
No, it's vegan leather. So it's a synthetic material and no one was shot in the head and it's not someone else's skin. So that bit of synthetic material you've got, that produced as much CO2 as driving my car from here to Darwin. That's correct. Can I see the scientific resource for that?
Well, you've only got to go to WHO, the United Nations WHO website. That will actually show you that for every 500 grams of synthetic material created, it produces as much CO2 as driving 2,000 kilometres.
Animal agriculture is responsible for more greenhouse gases than the world's entire transport system. But we're not here to argue about environment. We're here to argue about the rights of other species. So we're going a little bit off topic here.
No, factory farming, I agree with you. It produces as much methane as cars. But there animals are not being fed a proper diet. So I agree with you on factory farming. It produces methane. But free-range animals don't produce any greenhouse gases.
Sure, you can have that opinion or you can find the literature to actually show me that, but we're not here to argue about environment. We're here to say that there's a vegan alternative, so why would you subject someone to enslavement, torture, abuse and murder for a belt?
But it's all part of it. It's all part of the environment.
Yeah, and as we said, like, there's no difference between the free range and the factory farmed. Yes, the factory farmed animals have to suffer a lot more throughout their life, but whether they're free range or not, they're all shot in the head. They all die when they don't have to. They're murdered. Their life is taken away from them when it didn't have to be.
Well, they do have to be because I want to eat the damn things.
Everyone lives and dies. No one lives forever.
Does that justify murder? Is that a justification to take someone's life?
If you have to survive, yes.
We're not talking about survival here. Plenty of species require animal flesh for their survival, and if you were in a survival situation, then yeah, it probably would be excusable to take someone's life to eat their bodies. But you can actually go into the supermarket and choose a plant-based option. You don't have to subject someone to enslavement, torture, abuse, and murder.
I think the debate here is that we understand your point, and yes, there are definitely so many vegan options nowadays, and you can live off a plant-based diet, and it's not hard. Yes, it may be more expensive, but yes, you are saving a lot of animals. I think what we're trying to say here is that it's very difficult to ask people to be vegan when they've eaten meat their whole lives. It is definitely a choice, like eating meat is a choice. Becoming vegan is a choice. I eat meat and I think, live exports are horrible. I'm doing my part wherever I can to not eat meat. But at the end of the day, it is my choice, and whether I want to change that, that is up to me personally. So it is everyone's individual opinion on whether they want to eat meat or not. And
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Eating plants is detrimental to your fucking health.
Look, I think
If
this.
that's all you're going to eat,
I think this
it's not
conversa-
good for you.
I think this.
Do you know what's hard? Being a dairy cow who has raped her entire life and had her babies taken away from them to be shot in the head so you can consume her breast milk. That is hard. There is no justification to continue abusing and murdering animals
Order in the
because
courtroom.
it's inconvenient. It's absolutely, this is an atrocity here. We're talking about individuals who are being subjected to enslavement, torture, abuse and murder. And to say, oh, it's hard. Imagine what their lives are like.
Can I just ask a
Put
question?
yourself in their position.
I'm gonna have to pause both of you guys for a second. I think this deserves a round two. We've got a lot of other things on the night, and thank you very much, both of you guys, for coming down. We're running a bit short on
Can I just
time.
have a question?
Now, there's
One question.
Let's get two questions out.
Two questions?
Yeah,
All right.
Because otherwise,
Question. Can we just have a question to frame perhaps the next discussion? Is that it appears.
all right. Yep. Hello, madam. What's your name? Rebecca. There you go. You got the microphone.
Thank you. Can we just have perhaps to frame the next discussion, is that it appears that on one side we've got a fundamental belief that animals and humans are the same kind of thing or being with the same rights, the same experiences, and that therefore under that belief system, eating an animal is a rape, murder, atrocity, I believe was the tagline. And then on this side, we've got, there seems to be a fundamental belief that animals and humans are a somewhat different kind of being, and that therefore there is an ethical argument for eating animals, whereas under that belief framework, there isn't one. So, if we could perhaps address that in the next section, it might be really productive. Thanks.
Can I start on
Thank
that?
you, Tash. Thank you. To the brother, here you go. What's your name? Ryan.
Do we want to just touch on that real quick? Was that a question, like a quick one? Yeah, so that's not our position. Like, that's not our belief. We don't believe that we're the exact same as non-human animals. There are differences, but we're similar in all the ways that matter. We feel pain, we suffer, and we all have a desire to live. And if we don't have to have our life taken away from us, if it's completely unnecessary, which it is, that's the similarity between us and non-humans.
Okay. My name is Ryan. I'm just going to touch on a couple of points that you mentioned. I think one of them was that the point in which that the whole world can go vegan. So if the whole world went vegan, right, in the next couple of years, do we understand the level of impact that it's going to have on third world countries? Because a lot of these countries actually survive of farming. So what remedy do you have for these poor third world countries? This is more than 80% of the population in the world who actually survive on meat because it's a lot cheaper than having vegan products.
Yeah, so plant-based foods are the most fundamental foods. We're talking about a diet that's based around whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables. We can get all the nutrients we need from a plant-based diet. We can thrive on a plant-based diet, whether you're in a third world country or not. If we shifted our farming practices towards plant-based farming and we farmed foods that meet those categories of plant-based food groups, we can all thrive on that plant-based diet. So yeah, it doesn't really matter. I know there's differences currently between the farming systems, but as Tash touched on before, it's supply and demand, and it's a gradual shift. So as we start to put money towards plant-based food systems, that's how the world will change.
No, but I think what he was saying was, like, how would those that actually thrive off and pay their bills, their mortgage, their light bills and everything from farming, once you cut that off, like, okay, they've got plant-based diets to live off, but what now happens with that economy and that structure of how they survive and actually, like, prosper as human beings?
Yeah, it's a gradual shift. No one's going to cut it off tomorrow. I mean, that's a very hypothetical situation. That's not going to happen. It is gradual. And with all economies, that's how supply and demand works. As the population demand for food groups changes, i.e. as we shift, let's say, from an animal-based diet to a plant-based diet, and no one's eating 100% animal-based diet. There are the few extremes. But as a society as a whole, it's probably predominantly plant-based foods with animal-based foods in there. And all you're doing is you're just swapping out that animal-based protein source and swapping it with plant-based. So you're not really changing the entire agricultural system. You're just shifting a small part of it. And that, yeah.
Well, actually, I've got a comment there. I'll just say that, basically, I'd say I'm a vegetarian because, you see, even though I eat animals, those animals eat vegetables and plants. I'm just eating a value-added product.
Thank you very much, the farmers and the vegans for coming out tonight. Ahmed.
Big round of applause to Tash and the team. Thank you for coming outside and talking. Thank you for coming to the show. Big round of applause to John and Sasha for coming down. These guys drove 150 plus kilometers for the show. Thank you very much, Sasha.
Thank you.